No celebration, he said, his voice flat, almost irritated. The words hung in the air like a sudden power cut. The soft music stopped playing. The laughter froze. Pink and gold balloons floated awkwardly above us, tied with ribbons that now felt foolish. On the table sat a cake I had ordered a week in advance, white frosting carefully piped with the words, "Happy 10th Anniversary." The candles had already been lit, their flames trembling as if they sensed what was coming next. I blinked, certain I had misheard him. "No celebration?" I repeated, forcing a smile that hurt my cheeks. "Arman, everyone is here. It's just a small—" "I said no," he snapped, not even looking at me. My friends exchanged confused glances. My sister slowly set her phone down, the camera still open, ready to capture a moment that would now never exist. Someone coughed. Someone else mumbled an excuse about needing to leave early. One by one, our guests drifted toward the door, their congratulations turning into awkward goodbyes. Within minutes, the apartment felt empty, too quiet. Arman loosened his tie and walked past me as if I were part of the furniture. "I'm tired," he said. "I'm taking a shower." That was it. No apology, no explanation. I stood there alone, staring at the cake until the candle wax melted into small white puddles. 10 years. 10 years of sacrifices, of late nights waiting for him, of believing that love meant patience. As I began clearing the table, something strange caught my attention. Arman's jacket lay over the chair, heavier on one side. He had been unusually tense all evening, his right hand dipping into his pocket again and again, as if checking that something was still there. I told myself not to look, but doubt is louder than reason. My fingers slipped into the pocket, brushing against cold metal and soft fabric. I pulled out a small velvet box, deep blue, elegant, expensive. My heart thudded painfully against my ribs as I opened it. Inside was a diamond ring. Not my anniversary ring, not even close. This one was slimmer, newer, more deliberate, and it definitely wasn't my size. A sick feeling crept into my stomach. Beneath the ring lay a folded piece of paper. My hands shook as I opened it. Tomorrow, no mistakes this time. That was all. I sank into the chair, the room spinning around me. In that single moment, everything I thought I knew about my marriage cracked open. The canceled celebration, the cold voice, the secret in his pocket. This wasn't just neglect, it was a plan. And as the bathroom water started running, I realized something else, something darker, sharper, and far more dangerous. Whatever he was hiding had just given me a reason to stop being patient and start being smart. If you enjoyed this story, like, share, and subscribe to my channel for the more interested series. The truth is only just beginning. I didn't sleep that night. Arman lay beside me, breathing evenly, one arm thrown across the pillow as if nothing in the world had changed. I stared at the ceiling, replaying the weight of that velvet box in my hand, the sharp edges of the note cutting into my thoughts. Tomorrow, no mistakes this time. The words echoed like a countdown. At dawn, I made a decision. I would not confront him. Not yet. When Arman woke up, he moved with unusual care, already dressed for work earlier than usual. "Big day," he said casually, sipping his coffee. "Client meetings. I might be late." I smiled and nodded, my heart pounding. Of course. The moment he left, I grabbed my keys. I followed him. He didn't go anywhere near his office. Instead, he parked outside a small cafe across town, the kind with soft lighting and quiet corners, perfect for secrets. I watched from my car as he straightened his jacket, checked his reflection in the window, and walked inside with purpose. Then I saw her. She stood as soon as she spotted him, her face lighting up with a smile I hadn't seen directed at me in years. She was younger, confident, effortlessly elegant. Her hand rested on his arm as they sat, her fingers lingering just a second too long. My chest tightened. They talked closely, leaning in, laughing softly. He reached across the table and took her hand, brushing his thumb over her knuckles in a way that felt painfully familiar. Then she held up her hand, turning it slightly toward him. A ring glinted under the cafe lights. It was the same design. Not similar, the same. I felt numb as I raised my phone and began taking photos. Every smile, every touch, every lie captured in silent frames. My hands didn't shake. Anger has a way of sharpening focus. When they stood to leave, he kissed her cheek. Not hurried, not guilty, planned. I drove home on autopilot and did the one thing I had avoided for years. I checked our finances. Credit card statements, bank transfers, receipts hidden in digital folders he thought I would never open, hotels, jewelry stores, flights. And then I found something that made my blood run cold. A draft legal document saved on his laptop, tucked away in a folder labeled Work. It was a property transfer, our apartment being moved entirely into his name, my signature scanned and pasted neatly at the bottom. Forged. Suddenly, everything made sense. The distance, the secrecy, the canceled celebration. This wasn't just an affair, it was an exit plan. He wasn't planning to leave me quietly, he was planning to leave me with nothing. I closed the laptop slowly, my reflection staring back at me from the dark screen. The woman I saw there was no longer confused or heartbroken. She was alert. Because if Arman thought I was going to cry and beg for answers, he had made his biggest mistake. I wasn't going to expose him. I was going to let him finish his plan, and then I would make sure he regretted every single step. Don't miss what happens next. Like, share, and subscribe to my channel for more interesting, powerful story. The real name is just beginning. For the first time since discovering the truth, I smiled. Not because I was happy, but because I understood something Arman didn't. Anger makes people reckless. Silence makes them careless. And I chose silence. That evening, I cooked his favorite meal, spiced rice, slow-cooked meat, the dish he always praised when guests were around. Arman looked surprised when he walked in. "You didn't have to," he said, loosening his tie. "I wanted to," I replied softly. He watched me closely, as if trying to read my face for cracks. I gave him none. I laughed at his jokes. I listened when he talked about work. I even wished him luck for his big project tomorrow. That night, while he slept, I began preparing. The next morning, after he left, I met a lawyer. I didn't tell her everything at once. I showed her the photos first, then the financial records, then the forged property document. Her expression changed with every page. "This isn't just infidelity," she said finally. "This is fraud." The word felt heavy, but powerful. Over the next week, I met an accountant who specialized in tracing hidden assets. We followed the money trail, small transfers, carefully spaced, moving through shell accounts. Each discovery revealed a larger picture, one that made my hands curl into fists. Then I hired a private investigator. 3 days later, he called me. "The woman has a name," he said, "and she's not just a girlfriend." She was Arman's business partner. Together, they had been siphoning money from investors, moving it offshore, and preparing to disappear once everything was complete. The ring wasn't a promise of love. It was a distraction. Meanwhile, I played my role perfectly. I asked Arman about his day. I reminded him to take his vitamins. I sent him lunch to his office, an office he barely visited anymore. He grew comfortable, confident, careless. One evening, he casually mentioned planning a party. "We should do something," he said, "for our anniversary, properly this time."
I met his eyes and nodded. I said, "You're right, we should celebrate." That was the moment he stopped suspecting me. What he didn't know was that I had already forwarded evidence to the authorities, anonymously, enough to open a file, enough to start watching. All I needed now was one thing: witnesses. So I planned the celebration myself. Invitations went out to family, friends, and business associates, the same people he wanted to impress, the same people who trusted him. As I sealed the last envelope, my reflection stared back at me from the mirror. I barely recognized the woman I'd become. Not weak, not naive, prepared. Arman thought he was writing the ending of my story. He had no idea he was about to step onto a stage where every lie would be exposed, and when the curtain rose, silence would no longer protect him. Like this story so far? Like, share, and subscribe to my channel for more interested, powerful stories. The celebration is coming, and so is the truth.
The day of the celebration arrived faster than Arman anticipated. He stood in front of the mirror, adjusting his cufflinks, looking almost proud. "I'm glad you agreed to this," he said. "It'll be good for us." People were starting to talk. I smiled while fastening my necklace. "Let them talk," I replied. The venue was elegant: soft lights, white drapes, and a small stage at the front. Family members hugged me warmly, friends congratulated us on making it through 10 years. Arman played his role perfectly, his arm around my waist, his laugh confident, his lies smooth. And then she arrived. Arman stiffened for just a second before relaxing. He introduced her as a colleague, a key business partner. She wore a fitted dress and the ring, my ring. She met my eyes and smiled politely, unaware that I already knew everything about her. The music played, glasses clinked, speeches began. When it was time, Arman leaned toward me. "Say something," he whispered. "You're good with words." I stepped onto the stage. The microphone felt heavier than I expected. The room quieted as faces turned toward me, people who had watched our marriage from the outside, people who believed they were here for a love story. "I want to thank everyone for coming," I began calmly. 10 years is a long time, long enough to learn that trust is fragile, and truth always finds its way out. Arman frowned slightly. I gestured to the screen behind me. I prepared something special. The first photo appeared. Arman in a cafe, holding her hand. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Then another image, and another. Financial statements followed, highlighted transfers, hotel receipts, jewelry invoices. The room filled with whispers, then gasps. Arman stepped forward. "Turn that off," he hissed. I didn't. The final document appeared, the forged property transfer. "That signature?" I said steadily. "It isn't mine." The woman's face went pale. She tried to speak, but no sound came out. Arman's confident posture collapsed into panic. Before he could reach me, security stepped in. "And there's more," I added. "Everything you're seeing has already been shared with the proper authorities." At that exact moment, uniformed officers entered the hall. Silence fell. The woman dropped into a chair, shaking. Arman looked at me as if seeing me for the first time. "Please," he whispered, "we can fix this." I met his eyes. "No," I said quietly, "you can't." As they were escorted away, conversations erupted. Some people stared at me in disbelief. Others looked at Arman with disgust. The celebration he planned to control had become the stage for his downfall. I stepped off the stage, my legs trembling, not from fear, but from release. For the first time in months, I could breathe. If this shocked you, wake for what comes next. Like, share, and subscribe to my channel for more interested, powerful stories. The truth isn't finished yet. The officers hadn't even reached the exit when Arman twisted around and looked at me. Not with anger, with fear. The room buzzed with stunned whispers, but I barely heard them. My focus was on his face, the man who once promised to protect me, now watching his carefully built world collapse in real time. "Wait," he said urgently, "you don't understand." I stepped forward, holding something in my hand. the velvet box. A few people recognized it instantly. I raised it so everyone could see. "This," I said calmly, "is what my husband kept in his pocket the night he canceled our anniversary." I opened the box. The diamond sparkled under the lights, cruel and cold. "This ring," I continued, "was never a symbol of love. It was proof of an agreement between two people who believed they were smarter than everyone else in this room." I turned to the screen again and nodded to the technician. A new file appeared. Email exchanges, messages filled with careful wording and hidden meaning, dates, numbers, instructions. One message was highlighted. "Tomorrow. No mistakes this time." A wave of recognition passed through the audience. That single line, once harmless-looking, now carried weight. The woman buried her face in her hands. "We didn't mean for it to go this far," she whispered. Arman shook his head desperately. "She forced me," he said, pointing at her. "She planned everything." I laughed softly, not because it was funny, but because it was predictable. "Interesting," I replied, "because the accounts are in your name, the forged documents are yours, and the ring?" I paused. "You paid for it." The officers stepped closer. I took a breath and spoke one last time. For months, they moved money through hidden channels, preparing to disappear and leave behind legal chaos. They assumed I was unaware, unimportant. I met Arman's eyes again. "That was your biggest mistake." The lead officer nodded. "We've been monitoring this case," he said. "Tonight confirmed everything." Handcuffs clicked shut. The sound echoed louder than any music that had played that evening. As they were led away, Arman tried one last time. "I loved you," he said hoarsely. I didn't respond, because love doesn't hide knives behind smiles. When the doors finally closed, the room exhaled. People approached me slowly, some apologetic, some amazed, some unsure of what to say. I didn't need their words. I had said everything I needed to. Later that night, alone in the empty venue, I placed the ring back into its box and closed the lid. It had served its purpose. What he carried in his pocket wasn't a promise. It was evidence, and it ended everything. Want to see what happens after the fall? Like, share, and subscribe to my channel for more interested, powerful stories. The aftermath changes everything. The morning after the arrest felt unreal. I woke up alone in our bed, sunlight spilling across the room as if nothing had changed. No slammed doors, no hurried footsteps, no phone buzzing with excuses. For the first time in years, the silence didn't feel heavy. It felt clean. By noon, my phone began to ring. Family members, friends, even people I barely knew. Some offered support. Others asked questions they had no right to ask. I let most of the calls go unanswered. I needed space to understand what life looked like without Arman's shadow over it. That afternoon, I met my lawyer again. She slid a folder across the table. "The property transfer is officially void," she said. "The house is legally yours. All joint accounts are frozen until the investigation is complete." Relief washed over me, but it wasn't the rush I expected. Victory doesn't always feel loud. Sometimes it arrives quietly, like a door closing behind you. News of the case spread fast. Articles appeared online, carefully worded but unmistakable. Arman's company distanced itself immediately. Investors demanded answers. The woman, his partner, had already started cooperating with authorities. He hadn't. I visited him once. The detention center smelled like metal and regret. He looked smaller behind the glass, his confidence stripped away. "I never thought you'd do this," he said softly. I met his gaze. "You never thought I'd find out." He swallowed. "Can you help me?" The question surprised me, not because he asked, but because he still expected an answer. "No," I said. I didn't raise my voice, I didn't argue, I simply stood up and walked away. Some endings don't need explanations. Weeks passed. I redecorated the house. Small changes at first, new curtains, different lighting, then bigger ones. I removed everything that reminded me of him, not in anger, but in acceptance. The ring was sold. I used part of the money to cover legal costs. The rest I donated quietly to an organization that helped people rebuild after financial abuse. It felt right, like closing a circle. One evening, as I stood on the balcony watching the city lights flicker on, I realized something important. Revenge hadn't healed me. Clarity had. Knowing the truth, protecting myself, choosing not to stay silent. Arman had taken years from me, but he hadn't taken my future, and that mattered more than any courtroom victory. If this story moved you, don't stop here. Like, share, and subscribe to my channel for more interested, powerful stories. Healing is just as powerful as revenge. Time changes the shape of pain. In the beginning, every morning felt like waking up in a stranger's life. The house was mine again, legally and emotionally, but it still echoed with memories. Not loud ones, quiet moments, shared coffee, half-finished conversations, plans that no longer belonged to me. I stopped checking the news about Arman's case. At some point, knowing every detail stopped feeling empowering and started feeling heavy. I had won the battle that mattered. Everything after that was just noise. Instead, I focused on rebuilding things I had neglected, myself included. I joined a small gym nearby, not to impress anyone, but to feel strong again. I reconnected with friends I had slowly drifted away from during my marriage. Some admitted they had seen the signs and hadn't known how to warn me. I forgave them. Silence doesn't always come from cruelty. Sometimes it comes from fear. One afternoon, I ran into someone from my past at a bookstore, an old colleague who remembered me as I was before marriage, ambitious, curious, full of ideas. We talked for hours about work, travel, and everything except heartbreak. For the first time in a long while, I laughed without forcing it. The trial date was set, but I didn't plan to attend every hearing. My lawyer kept me informed. Arman still refused to take full responsibility. He blamed stress, circumstances, anyone but himself. That too stopped surprising me. I realized something important during those weeks. Revenge had an expiration date. The satisfaction of exposing him was real, but temporary. What lasted was something else entirely. The steady return of peace, the ability to sleep without suspicion, to breathe without second-guessing every word spoken to me. One evening, I packed away old photos into a single box, not to destroy them, not to relive them, just to acknowledge that they belonged to a chapter that had ended. I placed the box on a high shelf and closed the door. I wasn't erasing my past. I was choosing not to live in it. People often asked me how I stayed so calm through everything. The truth was simple. Anger had already taken enough from me. I refused to let it take my future, too. Healing didn't come from watching him fall. It came from watching myself stand up. And that was the real victory. If you're ready for the final chapter, like, share, and subscribe to my channel for more interested, powerful stories. The last truth changes everything. The day the case officially ended, I didn't feel the rush everyone expects. No tears, no celebration, no sense of triumph. Just a quiet acceptance. Arman was found guilty on multiple counts: fraud, forgery, and financial misconduct. The sentence was firm, final, and deserved. When my lawyer called to confirm the outcome, I thanked her, hung up, and sat by the window for a long time, watching the world move on. Because that's what the world does. It doesn't pause for closure. It keeps going. I thought back to that night, the canceled anniversary, the velvet box, the note that changed everything. What once felt like the beginning of my destruction had turned out to be an unexpected door. People often assume revenge is loud, dramatic, satisfying. But the truth is quieter. Revenge burns fast. Freedom lasts longer. I never saw Arman again after that final visit. I didn't need to. Some chapters don't require a goodbye. They end the moment you stop carrying them with you. Months later, I moved. Not because I was running away, but because I was choosing something new. A smaller place, more light, less history. I donated old furniture, kept only what felt honest, and let the rest go. On my first night there, I cooked a simple meal and ate alone at the table. No distractions, no fear, no waiting for someone to walk through the door with excuses. Just peace. I realized then that what had been in his pocket that night wasn't just a ring or a secret plan. It was his mistake. The proof that he underestimated the one person who knew him best. Me. Losing him wasn't a loss at all. It was a release. I didn't rebuild my life out of revenge. I rebuilt it out of clarity, knowing my worth, trusting my instincts, and refusing to accept less than honesty ever again. And that is the truth people rarely talk about. The greatest revenge isn't destruction, it's freedom. If this story resonated with you, like, share, and subscribe to my channel for more powerful original stories. Your support keeps these stories alive.